I'm almost tempted. To cut the music. Oh, it doesn't feel good when we lose, Seamus. It doesn't. The music is like, it's like it feels wrong. We should have. I forget what game, but there was a post-game show last year where that was a thing. The comment section was talking about that. How you guys can't stop with the upbeat intros after losses. It's too confusing. And I'll tell you what, it was another one here tonight, folks. 105-103 is your final from the TD Garden as the Boston Celtics fall yet again, now down to 3-5 on the short NBA season here against the Utah Jazz. Seamus, I'm not going to lie. I will not lie to you. Tonight felt like kind of the first game really all season where the Celtics came in and I was like, yes, we are better than the other team we're playing. We are at home. The betting line was 9.5. I had opened at 10.5. Here we go. This is going to be good. It's going to be a fun post game. We can celebrate and talk about how good this team could be and maybe overreact a little. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. So you know the drill. Our initial thoughts, reactions, takeaways from tonight's game.
Where do we even start with this one? Also, I want to say the music cutting, it feels like we're back in January, which we're not quite there. Hey, November. This is the second game of November, but it feels like we're back in January to where we can't quite give this team praise for anything they do anymore. And this is not in the same sense of last year's team in any manner whatsoever. This year's team has not proven themselves to be anything more than just a mediocre squad, because tonight they looked great in the first half and really the first quarter. I mean, it was the first quarter they really came out and established themselves early in this game. I mean, the 10-0 run to start the game, and then subsequently the first time out it was 14-2. The Celtics were on a roll at that point. Yet that third quarter after halftime, it's been the problem all season long. The rebounding, the size differential, and the closing of quarters and halves. The Celtics have not done a great job at all at closing quarters and halves this year. That fourth quarter and the beginning of the third and the late fourth quarter stages, much of the same. And even the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was the second half that was an issue for the Celtics. They gave up 38 points in that third quarter, which was more than they gave up in the first half. They gave up 36 in the first half, gave up 38 in that third quarter, and then in the last quarter, 31. The Celtics scored 31 themselves, but when you're going 31-31, you're going bucket for bucket in a close game, you need to eventually, of course, win that quarter, and the Celtics didn't at the end. And this is against a team that's young, a team that was thrown together, just like the Celtics, it feels like at this point in time, right? Because the Celtics, let's face it, they were thrown together as well in not a similar fashion, but that's exactly how both teams were approached this year, is kind of thrown together squads. I don't even know where to go with this one because it's becoming a just evident personnel flaw. The big man spot is utterly atrocious. That's why the Celtics lost this game. I mean, you look at the rebounding numbers in this one, the rebounding numbers, a massive discrepancy. Right. 65-43 in this. Second chance points, the Celtics actually won, surprisingly, 19-13, but the points in the paint, 54-40 in this game. And the Celtics forced 18 turnovers. That's what makes this so frustrating, is the Celtics actually won this game in many categories. Yeah, you look at the rebounding category, you look at some of the extra opportunities for the Jazz throughout this game, particularly inside the paint. I mean, it was really the 2-point shooting. I mean, this is, again, we talked about this when the Celtics played the Sixers and when the Celtics played the Jazz, or rather the Rockets before the Celtics played the Jazz tonight. The Celtics shot 51 threes tonight. They made 11. That is 21.6%. So the Celtics shot 20 more threes than the Jazz, who shot 9 of 31. That's 29%. Not a great mark at all. Yet the Celtics shot 20 more threes than the Jazz, yet made only 2 more threes. So in those 20 extra attempts the Celtics shot, they shot 2 of 20 in those attempts, essentially. And then you go, and that's where the Jazz dominated this game, is the Celtics. They relied on that 3-point ball, couldn't hit a shot all night, and then on the other end of the floor, they were just being destroyed inside of the paint. The Jazz were just getting everything they wanted around the paint, whether it was one of their big guys or even Keontae George, who had a fantabulous game tonight. Is that a word? Fantabulous? Fantastic?
I don't know,
Fabulous?
but
Fantastic? Fabulous? Fantabulous? I just said, I'm like, wait a minute. Did I just make a new word up here? I don't know. But regardless, that's the kind of game he had tonight. It makes up new words. That's how bad the Celtics were when it came to guarding the paint. It's about as simple as that.
I'm glad you said that for multiple reasons, but I can't believe I'm already at this point of the season. I thought it was at least going to come on like game 30, game 25. I'm sorry, but Missoula, it's and this is my initial thought, right? Watching this game, and maybe we open up the floor a little bit later on if we want to get down that road, right? But my initial thoughts on this game is, one, rebounding, right? I mean, you nailed it. You got absolutely just pummeled on the boards. I mean, it wasn't even fair tonight, and we get it, and it was funny because the Celtics actually came out and they were dominating the glass. They were doing a good job inside. You're like, okay, here we go. And then it just took a turn for the worse. Nurkic and Markkanen just in love, and Kevin Love. We were on here talking about DeAndre Jordan against the Pelicans coming and giving us the business. You got Kevin Love out in Utah giving us the business, looking like prime Timberwolves Kevin Love out there. He got 7 off the bench tonight in 16 minutes. I mean, the Celtics got absolutely demolished, 36-55 in the rebounding department. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, come on. I mean, and you talk about it, it's the personnel. I mean, who do you really have down there that can do this? And so that obviously is my biggest takeaway. And then I would agree with you with the threes. And I'm sitting here watching, and it's like, okay, Joe, this was your opportunity. Find a new identity. You said it, right? We're not going to have the luxury of shooting all these threes and getting all these open looks. Your playmaker and Jason Tatum, the guy that suffocates defense and really was the X factor to Porzingis getting open looks, White getting open looks, Holiday getting open looks, Hauser, Pritchard, all those open kick-out swing arounds. That was Jason Tatum. You don't have that this year. Where do you go? I mean, Jaylen Brown, credit goes to him. He is playing some phenomenal basketball right now. I mean, he is scoring the ball. He is really the lone beaming light coming out of Boston right now, for that matter. And I look at a game plan, Seamus, and X's and O's coming into this game, and the Celtics know what the hell they're doing. They're going out there, and they're kind of just running and gunning. And they're going to play fast. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. And I don't know if that can work with this inconsistent of a roster. And you said one more thing that I'm going to back you up on. Thrown together, right? This Celtics roster is not a cohesively put together group. This is a roster. Let's not get it twisted. This is a roster, Seamus, that Stevens went out, shed cap, and put a roster that can play basketball, right? He got 15 guys that can get on the court. And that's what this is with the Boston Celtics. This is not a constructed roster. This is not a well thought out constructed roster. This is a group of 15 guys that can maybe make some magic happen. And I'll tell you what, through the first 8 games, we saw the Celtics play some really good basketball with that 3-game winning streak and some really bad basketball. The question that I presented after that third win, right, was which trend are we going to see more? I know it's early. I'm leaning towards we're going to see the trend of the Celtics doing nights like this. And I think this is what's so worrisome to me, right? This to me is why I'm a little cautious. And this game might be like, oh, hold on. Is this the first time where it's kind of like we might look back on the season? It's like, yeah, this is the game we knew, right? This game against Utah, November 3rd at the TD Garden, where this is the Celtics came into the night 3-4, right? You said this, I want to say, on a couple post-game shows ago. This season, we're standings watching. We're not sitting at 1 all season. We're not sitting at 2 all season. Like, we are going to be fluctuating, or maybe we're sitting at 14 all season. Who knows? But I
think we're I believe we're at 12 or 13 right now. I mean, this is not. We're 2 weeks into the season. It's not going too well so far, folks.
Not at all. Celtics is sitting at 12 right now. In front of Indiana, Washington, and Brooklyn. And I mean, is that where we're at? But I mean, it's like, this is a game where you come in 3-4, an opportunity to get back to 500, right? Put you tied with Miami for that 7 seed. I know it's early, but you are at home against a worse Utah team. We talk about it. Celtics, they play with urgency, right? They're playing like it matters, but it's like, okay, maybe they're just not as good as we think, right? This is a game where you come in, you're favored by 10.5 points. Utah's not a great team. Utah's on a second end of a back-to-back, if I'm not mistaken. I could be off here, but they are on a second. Yes, they played Charlotte.
I believe they were. I don't remember the exact result. I only watched till halftime, but the Jazz played the Hornets last night, and the
23
Hornets beat the
points.
Jazz by 23.
Yeah. So you got Utah in the second of it back-to-back at home. And I'm sorry, but it's like, listen, I'm going to give this team 25 games. I know Jaylen Brown and Missoula, they're out here in the interviews asking for more time. I'm going to give them more time, Seamus. But, I mean, if this isn't worrisome, I don't know what is.
This whole entire schedule so far has been worrisome. I mean, you're playing so far, the Celtics and the Sixers haven't separated themselves whatsoever. I mean, their point differential over 8 quarters is 0 between the two of them. So you have that factor. The Celtics were absolutely destroyed down the stretch against the Pistons. Didn't look like they knew what they were doing in the second quarter against New York at all. Then you have, oh, congrats, we beat the Pelicans without Zion, and the Pelicans, and they're playing DeAndre Jordan in that game. And I think that's a worrisome. I mean, there's so many worrisome data points. That game alone, DeAndre Jordan, first of all, the Celtics didn't exactly win that game, I mean, outright, right? Because at the end, it was a 22-point win, but most of the game was close. I mean, that's one we'll look back and go, oh, yeah, we won, but that game was closer than the score indicated at the end. Even in that game, the Pelicans, oh, they're not playing Zion. And then they feel comfortable enough against this Celtics squad who don't have any bigs. Yeah, we can play DeAndre Jordan a couple minutes. It's like we're that you could not play DeAndre Jordan against the Celtics last year. Oh yeah, you're gonna play DeAndre Jordan against Horford and Porzingis and Luke Cornett. No, this year against Keita and Garza. Oh yeah, send them out there because tonight. I mean, that was on display fully. Is the lack of a tangible big man to really throw out there in large swaths of time because Keita, for as solid as he can be at times, he's just not all the way there as a starter. He's just not. He's a great, probably third or fourth guy, as the Celtics had him last year, right? But at this point in time, he's just not starter material. He's the best the Celtics have, but that's the problem. That is the huge issue of the Celtics right now. But all of those worrisome data points, looking back at their schedule, the last 2 games, the Rockets are a clearly better team than the Celtics. The Celtics owned absolutely no chance in that game, and that was the second night of a back-to-back. And that game beforehand, the Sixers on the road, I mean, the Celtics had multiple opportunities to close that one out, and it still came down to the last couple of possessions. I mean, nothing to me has stood out and really struck me as, wow, this is the identity of the team that's going to move forward and win ball games. Yes, they play hard. I'll give the Celtics that. But when it comes to the identity of what their defense looks like, what their offense looks like, from game to game, it looks different. It really does. Some games they look scrappy on defense. Other games, they're letting guys come into the paint. Tonight it was one of those. It was a reversion back into what we saw the opening week. Oh, the smaller, quick guards. Oh, Keontae George, he's getting inside the paint. He's going downhill. The Celtics are just letting him get every single angle. That's been a problem on the defensive end. Yet we've seen moments where Gonzalez, Minot, whoever's in the lineup, they're locking down along with Derek White and Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard. We've seen moments like that as well. And then when it comes to the offensive end, we saw the points come against Cleveland. That game was the perfect offensive game. The Celtics scored 125 points, and we were coming on here afterwards going, how do the Celtics generate more of these open looks for Sam Hauser specifically? Because he went off that game. I mean, early in that game, he went off, and that changed the tone of the entirety of the night for the Celtics, and they eventually won that game by 20. But it's the inconsistency. That night, the Celtics are generating all these open shots, hitting open shots, and then tonight, they come out, they're generating those open looks, they're passing the ball around, but then the end of the game looked more so like opening week where they're it's a little hero ballish. They don't really know where they're going. A possession that symbolized that down the stretch, Derek White drove into 2 guys, lost the ball. The ball went careening to Jaylen Brown. He drove, and he's almost like backwards going inside the paint, which is not unfamiliar to Jaylen Brown's offensive game. For some reason, he always gets turned around backward. I mean, he'll just turn his back. He loves to turn his back. He's got to just go forward. He likes to turn his back, turns his back, ball goes careening out to Pritchard. He takes a deep 3, clank. The Celtics don't get the rebound. Keita goes for the rebound. He doesn't get it. And that possession right there symbolized the Celtics down the stretch. It was, oh, Derek White into 2 defenders, lost the ball. Jaylen Brown, helter-skelter, into the entirety of the defense. He's out of control. He doesn't know where to go with it. Oh, Pritchard's wide open. Oh, he's going to take a 30-footer, and he clanks. And, oh, Keita's going for the rebound, and, oh, he's not really boxing out whoever the other big, I mean, it was either Nurkic or Markkanen or whoever tonight, but he's not boxing out the big all that well. They grab it over him. And that's been the story of the Celtics. It's the inconsistency. It's the flaws coming out at random moments in time. And it all has to do with personnel. From what I see, the Cavs didn't have the personnel to go against the Celtics that night. Tonight, the Jazz are just a big team in general. And the Celtics struggled with that. And it just seems to be fluctuating. Which kind of matchup are the Celtics going to see? And I think this is going to result at the end of the year in a record that looks somewhere around the 38, 39, 40, 41 win mark, where the Celtics, oh, look, they won 3 straight games. Oh, now we lost 2. And oh, we won 2. And oh, now we lost 4 in a row. That's where the Celtics are. They're 3-5. They started 0-3. They're 3-3. And now they're 3-5. That's who this team is. Small sample size, but I think the long-term sample size is going to bear out that small sample size to be indicative of where the Celtics actually are.
No, I'm with you. And I mean, you talk about matchups. To me, the size, right? It worries you where? Okay. Rebounding department, defensive end, right? Can you keep Utah at the paint? Boston has a speed advantage, right? They had a speed advantage. They're quick. Utah's a little, you got big and clunky Nurkic there, right down low, man in the paint. You got Markkanen, who I'm a big Markkanen fan, right? He plays the 4, though. He's a little bit of a big modern day 4. He's kind of 7'1". He is really a 2000s 4. He's really a modern day center, but they got him playing the power forward. And what does Boston do? They shoot 51 threes. 51 threes. Let's just run through these numbers real quick before we look at the lead tracker here, because honestly, I believe they tell the story into what this lead tracker is going to show us, Seamus. Jaylen Brown, 0 of 9. Peyton Pritchard, 4 for 11. Derek White, 3 of 8. Sam Hauser, 1 of 8. Anthony Simons, 2 of 8. Let's just give that a second. Let that marinate. And you know what the most frustrating thing about it is, Seamus, is if you didn't watch this game, right, and you're looking at that box score, Pritchard, White, Hauser, Simons, 4 out of the 5 guys, right? They are phenomenal, stand still, wide open, catch and shoot shooters. You are hardly ever going to see those 4 guys in the same game put up numbers like this, taking good open shots. And that, to me, is the most frustrating thing about it. Boston, led by head coach Joe Mazzulla, because now I can say it. I can be the one to say it, because coaching is going to take this team to the next level. Coaching is going to unlock players like Josh Minott, players like Luka Garza, player like Neemias Queta. It's going to figure out how to get Anthony Simons acclimated off the bench in his first career role off the bench. It's going to get players like Peyton Pritchard to get acclimated as a starting point guard. Right? That's going to be coaching. Let's not sugarcoat this anymore. Right? And you see something like that. To me, in my world, it is unacceptable to ever see 4 out of your 5, including Jaylen Brown, who is a phenomenal inside the arc player. He is a mediocre at best behind the arc player. Do what they did tonight. And let's take a look at the lead tracker, because Seamus, quite frankly, I believe those numbers, those shooting splits, they tell the story. It was a sea of green in the grand scheme of things. The Celtics led by as many as 14 points there late in that second quarter, Seamus. And you talked about earlier when the show started, the Celtics having trouble out of the gate come a halftime. That lead just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until later in that third quarter, Utah eventually took the lead, and Boston did get that lead back here closer towards the end of that third quarter, going into the fourth quarter. And then the fourth quarter rolls around, Seamus, and guess what? It is all Utah, and Utah really never looked back. Boston kind of grabbed it there towards the end, but obviously we know the story. Yusuf Nurkic, offensive rebound and putback, eventually gives Utah the lead. Obviously, the game was tied 7 times, longest run 12 in 7 lead changes tonight. Seamus, you talk about the shooting numbers, you talk about the lead tracker, you mentioned it a little bit, but what exactly happened to Boston coming out of the gate in that second half to just absolutely collapse yet again tonight at the Garden?
Well, part of it was the rebounding in general. The rebounding at half was going the wrong way for the Celtics. And after that, it was the defense. Defensively, it was the points inside the paint. I mean, it's not only, oh, Utah's bigs, right? Utah's bigs, that's going to be a huge conversation. But the biggest contributor to Utah's success tonight was not one of their bigs. It was one of their small guards in Keontae George. And he had 31 points tonight. And those small guards, a huge factor within their game, right, of their contribution to a team is their ability to get past bigger, slower players, right? And faster, smaller guards, they want to get downhill. They want to get to the rim. They want to get there before the big ultimately meets them there. Or rather, if they have a big on them or a bigger forward on them, they want to drive right past them. Tonight, there were too many of those moments. And this is where the Celtics, they're just not as versatile this year as they were in years prior. Years prior, you can put multiple guys on Keontae George, and it's harder to, if you're the Jazz, it's harder to extract the switch that you want on the defensive end of the floor against the Celtic team that you feel in the past, maybe they wanted to go after a guy like Porzingis or Horford, but that's only one guy on the court because the rest of the guys, you don't want to go after Tatum. You don't want to go after Brown or Holiday or White. But now, if Keontae George is out there, he wants to go after a guy like Keita. He wants to go after a guy like Boucher, who's a little slower footed on the perimeter at times. He wants to go after guys in the Celtics lineup who just aren't that great of defenders. That's just as simply put. A guy like Sam Hauser, Anthony Simons, Luka Garza is a little slower footed on defense, and he has a little bit of a physicality problem at the rim. And then we all know the story of Xavier Tillman. He is a player, again, you're going to want to pick on the perimeter for as okay as he can be as a shot blocker and a deter around the rim. He's not somebody who's going to D up on the perimeter and really keep a guy at bay. And that's something we definitely looked past. A couple of years ago, we talked, Xavier Tillman, Al Horford replacement. Al Horford was an elite perimeter defender for his size. Xavier Tillman is not going to be that. But I hate to poke on Xavier Tillman more than anybody else. It's really this entire lineup, because especially when you're guys like Jaylen Brown and Derek White, and I'd put Pritchard. Pritchard is, I'm done with the Pritchard propaganda at this point on the defensive end. I'm done. Okay. Because it's always, Pritchard tries on defense. He's real scrappy on that end. He gets into guys. He's just small. All right, folks. He's just small and he gives up angles. And what can you do? His arms, he's 6 foot tall and he's listed at 6'2", but let's face it, his wingspan, his height, he's just not that big of a player. And those bigger guys, right? Or even those quicker guards, it's easier to get around a guy. I don't want to say it's completely easier because of the speed, but it's the length, right? It's the length. It's this guy can cover about half a foot less in this amount of time versus a forward who's maybe a little bigger, a little lengthier to cover that up. But it's either or of the problem, right? Because you have Pritchard, he's smaller, and you're going, well, they can pick on him because of his size. But then other guys like Tillman and Boucher and Garza and even Keita, they're lengthier, they're more sizable, but they're slower. It's they're not going to have the foot speed to defend. So there's a deficit within many players on this team that just render them a less optimal option for the Celtics to actually throw out there. And it just goes back to personnel. And Franco, he was very, over the summer, very adamant about this roster not looking complete whatsoever. And he kept saying, there's going to be more moves. There's going to be more moves. There's going to be more moves. And the fan base wanted that to be true because the roster after the month of June, even the month of July, it's really stayed the same. It stayed the same. It was, are we really going to roll with this? It stayed the same. And now we're here. And now we're witnessing all the problems which came out clearly in that third quarter when the Celtics gave up 36 points. And it's part of the inconsistencies. It's part of the inconsistency with this entire squad. They just cannot play a full 48 minutes worth of basketball because inevitably there are going to be guys within the rotation that just cannot keep that consistent flow of production through 48 minutes when you have to go out there and Play guys who you know are going to be picked apart on the defensive end of the floor. Play guys who you know they're not the best at boxing out. They're not the best at grabbing rebounds. They're not the most sizable bodies out there, period. And that's just the issue right now. It's a personnel problem. And the Celtics are going to run into games where their personnel looks good. Maybe say like the other night against the Cavaliers. Yet tonight, where they're facing a bigger team led by a smaller, quicker guard, I mean, almost that felt like the Celtics' kryptonite. They're facing a small guard who they can't stay in front of, and then when that small guard misses, there's a bunch of bigs there who the Celtics can't box out. I mean, it was literally the Celtics' kryptonite tonight against the Jazz, and I did feel it was a kind of a bad matchup for the Celtics, despite what one would say about all the talent, which that's a whole nother conversation in itself.
It is, and I have a conspiracy theory on that. And I have a conspiracy theory, and I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna share it real quick. I believe Brad Stevens knows a little too much about good basketball and good talent to have left a gaping hole at a certain position that big man position is. I believe that Brad Stevens maybe just maybe knew what he was doing and maybe put the Celtics in a position at the center position to be just bad enough to keep losing games. That I've been seeing that on Twitter. I'm not saying that. I don't know if I fully believe it, but I mean, they are. I mean, the hole is that big.
Well, to me, look at some of their production elsewhere. What doesn't make sense on the team is Simons and Pritchard. It's got to be one or the other, folks. This is not going to go on for multiple years. I mean, it's one or the other. They play the same exact position. But the production of the team elsewhere is not terrible. It's not terrible. There are offensive producers on this team. Defensively, you can pull it together at times with different guys. Okay. I'm not saying, trust me, the defensive end of the floor has been a mess, but you can pull it together with certain personnel packages, and they've been good at times, especially some of the younger, more energetic guys, right? Like Minot and Gonzalez specifically. Those guys have been phenomenal on the defensive end of the floor. But if you just add a competent big man who can rebound, it feels like the Celtics could be a top 4 seed in the East with this roster with a competent big man. But it's that alone is keeping the Celtics from just I look at the Celtics in the standings right now, and we shouldn't overreact over 8 games in the first 2 weeks of the season, but they're below the play-in. And they were just beat by a team who's supposed to be 15th in the West this year. No questions asked. And I just want to point out Utah, their win total is 18.5. They're already at 3. So, 15 more wins to go there for Utah. This is a situation that question right there, that conspiracy of, did Brad Stevens leave a gaping hole at the center position in order to potentially tank the season away? Right, to subliminally tank the season away? The question will be answered based upon what the Celtics do at the deadline. Because if the Celtics go out and find a big man, you'll know, the Celtics actually want to win with this roster. They actually want to stay competitive. They think they add a big to this roster. This roster can be a little bit more competitive in the second half of the season. And not only that, this big man could be on the roster when Tatum comes back. Right. Whether that's later on this year, it doesn't seem, with the results we're seeing right now, it doesn't seem like that's probable, but maybe next year. It's that potential scenario right there. The Celtics go out and find a big man at the deadline. One will know if they're serious or not. If the Celtics just sit on their hands and go, well, that's when okay, the Celtics are not exactly serious about this season. And that's when you start seeing things like, Jaylen Brown ankle sprain, but he's out for 4 weeks instead of 3 games, right? That's what these tanking teams do, and the Celtics are in that limbo right now. That's what we should point out on the show. The Celtics, so far, they're in limbo, and that's why these conversations are had, because it's not always a team isn't always from the beginning of the season thinking, we're going to tank. It depends on what the results look like down the line. Right? What does the record look like in December, in January? And say by February, the record's not looking too good. All right, Jaylen Brown, just sit out a couple weeks. Derek White, we'll have you sit out a couple games. Peyton Pritchard. That's when the tanking will start to come into play. As of right now, I don't see a universe in which the Celtics are trying to tank. It is simply they're trying to win. They're trying to play the best personnel, but the best personnel isn't the best personnel in the league. In any combination, any package, you can't make a combination of the personnel the Celtics have right now, and that combination be slotted amidst the best combos in the league. It just doesn't exist. Seasons in the past, you can't say the same thing. You can put together combinations and go, this is one of the better lineups in the entire NBA. You cannot do that with the Celtics right now whatsoever. But that's where, if the record says one thing in the middle of the season, the Celtics maybe try to add and improve the personnel packages. But the record says another thing. They might just sit on their hands. They might sit players. And that is when the tanking conversation actually comes into play. Right now, we're actually sitting here waiting to see what direction the Celtics actually go. The returns right now, the first week looked terrible, 0-3. Then it looked promising, 3-3. And now we're starting to downturn towards where we were during that 0-3 stretch, with the team now sitting at 3-5. I mean, this is the roller coaster ride we're riding right now with the seeds.
It is. And I think something that's worth noting is this team has to be careful. They have to be careful, because if they're not, right, 10 games from now, Seamus, and they're 3-7 in those next 10, now what? You're looking at 8-15, or no, terrible math there. My fault. terrible math. What you're looking at, if they're 3-7, you're looking at 6-12. And you're like, in the next thing, that's my point, is the Celtics, and we knew this, right? This was common knowledge. We knew that the first 20 games were not going to be pretty, right? The question was could they, through those 20 games, take the steps to slowly, right? Almost game by game, clearly see the improvement through 20, right? That game one was going to be the worst, but through those 20 games, it was going up. Maybe it was a little tick them back up. But right now it feels like it's kind of going like this a little bit, almost like in a straight line, where it's going to be like that. And there's going to really be no upward. And I think that is the unfortunate situation that Boston is presented in. But, let's talk. Oh, here we go. I texted you this, and we got to talk about a certain someone yet again. And his name is Derek White. Now, we know how successful Derek White has been with the Boston Celtics and this organization, obviously winning that championship and being a key part to really Boston's success over the last 3 seasons. However, Seamus, through these first 8 games, it has not been pretty for Derek White by any means. I mean, tonight was honestly considered one of the better games we've seen from Derek White. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 3 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 8 from downtown. Again, he took 1 non-3-pointer. Seamus, I have a question for you, and this is something we briefly touched on, and it's going to be the first part to the Derek White saga, because I feel like it might be a saga now here. Is this a product that we're seeing? Is this the Jason Tatum effect? Are we seeing some of these players on this Celtics roster that were here in previous years playing alongside Jason Tatum and some of those great teams the Celtics have had? Now that some of those great players are gone, and specifically Jason Tatum being out of the lineup, are we just maybe seeing what these players look like when they're not alongside a first-team All-NBA MVP candidate type of player?
100%, because the perception of everybody on the Celtics roster coming into the season was, oh, well, they have Pritchard and White and Brown, still from the championship team, and Keita was there last year, and of course Hauser. But one fails to forget, it's a team sport. The team makes up the bulk of the success for everybody. I mean, everybody eats when a team wins a championship, because everybody's winning. Everybody is winning. Rarely do you see a championship team where a player walks away and thinks, yeah, I didn't really get the best out of that situation. I lost from this. I didn't get my money. I didn't get my minutes. I didn't get my role. No matter what, if you're on a championship team, wherever you're slotted into the rotation, usually it's beneficial for one's career. And that's where the perception of all these players on this year's roster, that's where it was formed during that championship season, and even last season and the season before, when the Celtics were actually winning ball games. But the Celtics were winning ball games because of the talent existing on that roster, such as Jason Tatum, Porzingis, Horford, Cornette, who are now all gone. Drew Holiday as well, can't forget him. But all of those players, and even going back further, right? You could say, Malcolm Brogdon, Grant Williams, players like those guys who also contributed to good teams of the past. All of those players, they're gone, which then slots the players the Celtics have now into bigger roles that beforehand were being filled by these all NBA, all-star players. And now, it's the same conversation. It's instead of Derek White facing the third or fourth best defender on a team, he's now facing the first or second, depending on who Jaylen Brown's facing on the other end of the floor. And right now, it's all of those players, the perception of them coming into the season, just because they won a championship, it's almost as if people thought of them as, oh, they have championship DNA, therefore that will just spread like a disease everywhere, right? Oh, they're going to be, if you slot Sam Hauser on this team, he's won a championship before, therefore he should just all of a sudden, that championship DNA should come out of him and just spread to everybody else. Well, that's not exactly how it works when everybody else are guys like Josh Minot, Luka Garza. Miles KD was on the championship team, but everybody here knows what I'm saying. All of the guys who are younger, less experienced, who weren't on the team, who are not even really sound in their roles within the NBA on any team. I mean, there are guys, this is a major tryout season for a lot of guys on this roster. And with the increased responsibilities of everybody who was on the championship team, they were not the bulk of the success. It was the team. It was everybody collectively. So when you take away, say, 50% of that squad, I mean, you're left with 50% of the success to that squad, but that other 50% you have to make up, and you're making it up with guys who might not make up that full 50%. They might make up 10% of it, and then you're left with 60, and you're 40% short of actually becoming a good basketball team. And it's, that's pretty, that way of explaining it right there is not very exact, but I hope it shows a little bit of a visual on why these guys, particularly a guy like Derek White, are not seeing the same success right now. It's the rest of the supporting cast. Even a guy like Jaylen Brown, I don't want to take it off onto a Jaylen Brown tangent because this is a conversation about Derek White, but Jaylen Brown, he's playing phenomenally other than the turnovers. The scoring has been utterly efficient this year. He's getting his point totals. He's putting together quite the resume outside of, again, the turnovers. But as we're seeing, it's not exactly correlating with team success. And that's basketball. Ask Knicks fans with Carmelo Anthony. He looked great with the Knicks for many years, but the huge hit on Carmelo Anthony, he wasn't a team player. I'm not saying that's what Jaylen Brown's running into, but the rest of the team, they're not contributing at a high level. If they're not producing at a high level and it's only Melo the whole time, well, then that team isn't going to go very far. That's where we're at right now. Some of these contributors, like a Jaylen Brown, they're contributing at a high level, and then others like Derek White, they're just not contributing to the same level whatsoever because they're playing a different role and can't actually slot into that position. So there's many messes on the Celtics team, but if you slice everything into a blame pie, that is definitely a piece on the blame pie, is guys filtering themselves into other roles that beforehand never existed for them. And now they're asked to do things that beforehand, Jason Tatum is handling the ball. Now, Pritchard. Now you do what Jason Tatum did. And Pritchard's going, I'm gonna do my best, but I'm not exactly 6'10" Jason Tatum, top 3 NBA player. And that's just the reality of the team.
It is, and quite frankly, honestly, I think it shows a couple things, some in which you hit, and I think it shows maybe a lack of appreciation for just really how good Jason Tatum really is, because I believe that we're kind of seeing now just the elevator that he was able to take some good players and didn't elevate them into great players. Now, that's not to say that these players on this roster right now can't get back to that level. I just think what they're running into is just how hard it really is to get back to that level, to get to the level they were playing at when Jason Tatum's not paired alongside of him. For me, I don't know when it's going to give with Derek White. What's the give? Is there a change in play style that's going to take place in order to fix this? Because to me, Seamus, that kind of feels like what's missing. It's not like he doesn't, and I said this the last time we talked about it two games ago. It's not that Derek White doesn't have the talent to do it. It feels like the play in which he's actually playing is holding him back from that talent really being on display.
It's the approach. And I think it could be not only a conversation surrounding Derek White's mentality of how he's playing the game, but it's also how the coaching staff and Joe Mazzulla is actually utilizing Derek White. And I thought this a little bit last week when the Celtics were 0-3. And even, because I'm sorry, folks, but you ain't going to get me with these small sample sizes. You're just not. Oh, the Celtics are 3-3. They're back. It's like, okay. They were 0-3 last week. Everybody wants them to tank. They're 3-3 now. Everybody wants them to win the title. You have to slow down. During that 3-3 stretch, Derek White was not very good whatsoever. But also, somebody asked a question about why the tripping call wasn't called earlier. Just want to address that real quick. Jaylen Brown said it was unacceptable and BS. Now he used the full word, and FCC don't come after us here. But he used the full word. He said it was BS. I tend to agree. I mean, I don't know how that wasn't a trip. The refs missed it, and that could have been the game. But hey, the Celtics, you got to come up with more rebounds if you want to really complain about that. However, back to the Derek White situation, in which we're talking about here. Derek White, the play style, right? I thought this last week when the Celtics were scuffling. I can't remember which post game or which game it was, but is it possible Derek White, when Joe Mazzulla looks at Derek White in the lineup and what his responsibilities are on the floor, is it possible Joe Mazzulla needs to shift the responsibilities of Derek White around?
Yes.
That's what it might take. And I'm a little afraid that it's not going to happen because Derek White was such a big figure on that championship team. And how is Joe Mazzulla supposed to go to Derek White right now and say, well, we want the responsibility of what you're doing to be shifted elsewhere, and we want your responsibilities to be funneled more so into say last year, remember, he was, now throughout the year he was still handling the ball, but he was slotted into more of the wing position, right? He's a ball handling guard, but he's also playing more so as a wing next to a point forward in Tatum, right? But here's the huge issue again with personnel. Who do the Celtics have to possibly replace the ball handling responsibilities of Derek White? There's not really a guy. You could say Anthony Simons, Pritchard, White, or rather Brown. Does it work in that way? Is Simons even going to be a long-term option? That's where this thing gets really messy, because you do question, does Joe Mazzulla need to shift Derek White's position around? One questions that, but then it goes immediately into the question of who's replacing his responsibilities, and how does that exactly work out within the hierarchical structure of the team? But it's possible that it needs to happen regardless. And when it needs to happen, does that even change anything? That's another huge question.
That is a huge question to me. Maybe I'm off here. What made Derek White so special was not what we're seeing him do right now. It's kind of like when you look back on all the great like teams the league's seen, the Warriors with Draymond. It's like they didn't ask Draymond to be anyone else other than Draymond at any other point in his career. Dennis Rodman, it's like another one where it's like they weren't looking for anything else other than what Dennis Rodman was really good at. And it feels like that's the kind of player Derek White was, where he was like the utmost utility guy, but he was the superstar at what he did. He was like the superstar role player, where what made White so good wasn't that he was taking these 30-footers, wasn't that he was trying to isolate, wasn't that he was trying to do all this stuff. It's that he just continuously played off of his teammates and made winning plays down the stretch. I believe that role is still present and it's still possible alongside Pritchard, Brown, and Simons. I believe White can get there, but it feels like what Boston's doing is trying to elevate Derek White into a new role. And to me, that doesn't make any sense and is the wrong approach, because it's like asking Draymond Green when Kevin Durant went down or when Klay Thompson went down, okay, Draymond, you're now our second primary scorer. And you're looking at it and you're like, well, why would that make any sense? That's not who
It's like the
Draymond is.
1920 Warriors. Remember that
Right.
team without, I mean,
Yes.
there was no Steph, Clay, Draymond, or sorry, there was no Steph, Clay, and KD right after they made the finals in 2019. Steph was out with an injury. Clay was out with an injury. KD had left the Nets, and Draymond was left sitting there, and it was him and Jordan Poole, essentially.
Right. And,
it's a little reminiscent.
Who Pascal? What was his first name? Eric
Pascal.
He had a little stretch there. He was,
yeah. He was one of those. Oh, look, here's this guy who's in his first, second year. He's like a Jordan Bell, right? Jordan Bell is another one.
Yeah,
where
there's another one.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's always those.
That's what it feels like.
It's always those West Coast guys. Gotta say,
it is those random 30-game stretches. But to me, that's what it feels like with Derek White. And Missoula has it off the money. It's like you don't want to make Derek White something he's not. And again, it poses the question: is Boston even in the position to do that? Right? Can Derek White be Derek White without Jason Tatum?
And to me, I think this is a huge part of the conversation as well. Within all of this, is Derek White. Can he morph what he did best with a contending Celtics team into the role he's given now? Because I think along these lines, Derek White, the perception of Derek White over time, the fan base, this is where, the fan base, I'm just not in support of fans voting for All-Star Weekend, because the fans take things to new levels that you just, they're just not, it's not reality. It's like, oh, this is a massive narrative fans draw up, but the reality of the situation is never quite as it seems. Well, Derek White, people pointed to him and said, oh, he's an all-star. Oh, he's one of the core pieces on the Celtics who, let's face it, they put him into a category of just give him the ball, let him cook, let Derek White cook at times, right? And Derek White, look at his improved three-point shot since joining the Celtics. Well, folks, none of that, right? None of Derek White's isolation scoring or Derek White's three-point shooting really made him a valuable Celtic. What made him a valuable Celtic was his decision-making with the ball. When the ball was swung to Derek White, you always knew Derek White was going to make the right play, whether that was a pump fake, a drive, a finish at the rim with an open lane, or a pump fake, a drive, collapse the defense, find the open man in the corner, or, oh, I am wide open for three. There's no reason to drive on this one. I'm just going to take the shot. Or swung over to me. Oh, extra swing pass, going to make that one. Always making the correct decision. And also another key factor here within that play, right? It's the secondary action. Derek White is the one always receiving the ball, right? It was Tatum or Brown running the offense. And there'd be moments Derek White would run the offense, but it's not as if he would run it in the same way as Tatum or Brown. There'd be a little bit more set action for Derek White per se than, say, Tatum or Brown, who could take it and score themselves. Derek White was not an isolation scorer. People started to form the perception, oh, because he's in the all-star ranks with his advanced numbers and because of his scoring totals, he should be up there with all the other isolation scorers. He must be an isolation scorer. He wasn't an isolation scorer. He got all of his points from, oh, look, Tatum just delivered me a pass in the corner and I'm wide open over here. Or, oh, I just got a wide open look at the lane and a wide open look at the bucket because I was just giving a pass over here. The guy who was helping on Tatum, he's late to come over. I'm driving right past him and I'm finishing at the rim. Nowadays, again, he's running the offense, and furthermore, he's making bad decisions. And the bad decisions, it's every time he takes a three-point shot from 30 plus feet, every single time. And some of them, got to give it to him, wide open. You got to take the wide open ones. But the shots that are coming early in the shot clock off of a singular action or off of just a wild play, one that goes awry, and you're thinking, all right, we need to settle the offense down, or we even need an extra pass right now. We need an extra dribble. White's chucking that shot. And right now I'm looking at his game and it's not really matching up with what his game was known to be. Specifically, I'm looking at the moment he joined the Celtics. I understand, oh, people are saying, oh, he's improved greatly since joining the Celtics. But really, when he joined the Celtics, he was, I don't want to say a complete player at that point, but he was very developed in the league and he fit in like a glove with that 21-22 squad, and then so on and so forth the next three seasons afterwards, until last year was when we started to see the whole, ooh, chucking threes, chucking threes, chucking threes. And this year, I don't know why we thought the second half of the season was better for Derek White, if we remember that. It was better for Derek White last season, but coming into this year, I'm surprised we weren't more. I'm surprised we weren't as alert to what could have potentially happened with Derek White given more responsibility this year. Seeing what happened last year, because last year was almost like, ooh, he comes back from the summer, he's a champion, and we're giving him more responsibilities in the All-Star conversation last year, and we won the championship. It's time to give him more shots, give him more opportunities. And with that, there was a lot of three chucking. And now this season, it's even more opportunities. It's even more responsibility. And now it just feels like we're going so far overboard to the point where how many games this year how many quality games has Derek White actually put forth when it comes to shooting this year? Any? I want to look at I'm going to look at I'm going to look at some of his numbers real quick.
I'm interested to know. I'm interested when you find that. Can we look at the distribution? Has Derek White taken 10 twos this year? Like, has he reached 10 2-pointers attempted?
Well, let's see. We got league totals here. So we can find Derek White. We get this is last season. No wonder I'm like, wow, these totals are really hot. Like, 82 games versus 8. But totals this season so far, let me find Derek White on here real quick. Let's go to Boston and Derek White. Let's see. He's shooting, first of all, 30.8% from the field. He's shooting 25% from three. He's taken he's taken 117 total attempts this season. So this does not count tonight. This counts the first 7 games of the season. 30.8% on 117 field goal attempts. From three, he has shot 17 of 68, which is 25%, as I mentioned. And from two, he's 19 of 49, 38.8%. He's taken 18 free throws. So those are the shooting numbers.
Has he really taken 49 twos this year? It feels like I've seen him take 5.
49.
Wow.
49. But also, I want to look at some of his advanced numbers here real quick, because those are some of the numbers, especially during the 23-24 season. People were pointing at the advanced numbers saying, well, Derek White. Okay, so box plus minus, he's a minus 2.3 this season. Offensive box plus minus, he's negative 2.1. Defensively, he's a negative 0.2. Why this is significant? Now, I understand people are going to say, well, box plus minus, well, the rest of the team makes up the box plus minus. This is why I generally look at box plus minus. If you look at some of the best box plus minuses in the league, here, I'll read you guys the top 5 names: Giannis, Jokic, Luka, Shea, Wemby. It's like, okay, those are likely the top 5 NBA players. And no matter, and this is always the gauge on this. Jokic, I believe this was 23-24, might have been last season, but one of the last 2 years. Jokic was I believe, one of the league leaders in defensive box plus minus. Meanwhile, the rest of the Denver Nuggets, not one player had a positive defensive box plus minus. So you have an entire Nuggets team with zero players at a positive defensive box plus minus. Meanwhile, you have Jokic, who leads the league. So it kind of does filter into the value of these players. But we're talking about Derek White here. Derek White right now, he is 141st in box plus minus total. Okay, so 141st in the NBA. Defensive box plus minus, he is 91st. And these are all the qualifiers as well. So not technically every player in the league, but the ones who qualify. Offensive box plus minus. Derek White is 150th right now. Those same numbers a couple seasons ago, for reference, if we want to go back to, say, 23, 24, we can just get some of the data up there because this is probably important for, say, the actual scale of this. So Derek White, back in that season, so box plus minus, he was 23rd. Defensive box plus minus, he was 23rd. And offensive box plus minus, he was 38th. So that was his 23-24 season where
So he's
people were
dropped
throwing
almost
him.
100 spots.
Yes, just to this season. Those are just the box plus minus stats. But I mean, you can go and dive into a bunch of other things. I mean, you could dive into win share. You could dive into a million stats, but just looking at the box plus minus, obviously he's on a worse team, but even when you're on a piss poor squad, some of your individual success with box plus minus will shine through, such as, say, a guy like Lauri Markkanen. The Jazz are not that great of an offensive team whatsoever. Lauri Markkanen has one of the best offensive box plus minuses in the entire league. Defensively, not the same. Offensively, a very good player. But that does give a little bit of scale right there. Derek White, on both ends of the floor, he's not a positive player right now on either end. Now, that is where if you go and look at the entire Celtics team, if we were to discuss part of the Celtics team relative to even this Jazz team tonight, because we know the Jazz are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, their win total is 18.5 coming into the season. That would be 30th out of 30. But this year, so far, the Celtics, as we pull them up here, come on, Basketball Reference. Shout out Basketball Reference, using your all's numbers right now. But so the Celtics, every single player on the Celtics right now. So I'm just going to run through this. Positive box plus minus players. Amari Williams, congrats. Completely small sample size. Xavier Tillman. How about Baylor Shireman? How about Josh Minot? Nehemias Queta? Sam Hauser? Jaylen Brown. Okay, the negative players, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Anthony Simons, Luka Garza, Hugo Gonzalez, unfortunately, Chris Boucher, and Ron Harper Jr. so far. So just to list out all of those guys kind of gives a little bit of a perspective on the team up to this point. But Derek White is in the negative category. You know what? It's a huge problem with the negative category right now. Derek White's in that category. Peyton Pritchard's in that category. Anthony Simons. If you're looking at the core of the Celtics, it's Brown, White, Pritchard for sure. You throw in Simons and Hauser maybe, but a lot of those guys are in the negative right now. Bottom line.
And I think part of the problem is in really we were warned about this, or we tried to talk about it in the offseason, more so with the Pritchard and Simons tandem. But I think a reason why you're seeing that is it's almost like there's a log jam where it's like you got four players who kind of sort of are doing the exact same thing and trying to have the exact same impact, that it's like when two magnets are just like pounding against each other, right? It's like, it's like, it just can't connect, because essentially you got four guys who kind of have the same play style, kind of want to do the exact same thing with the basketball. There's no cohesiveness. And it's like, fair warning to all of our viewers, I'm sorry, there's going to be a lot of comparisons to the 24 team, the 25 team, and in years past, because really that's what we have to compare it to. But you look last year, and every player on the court had a distinct role. Okay, Tatum knows what he's doing. Brown knows what he's doing. Holiday knows what he's doing. White knows what he's doing. All these guys were doing different things on the court that were contributing, right, to winning. And this year, it feels like everyone on the court is kind of trying to do the exact same thing, outside of maybe Minot, Nehemias Queta, and Brown, I would say. And then like everyone else is out there trying to play fast and shoot threes. It's like, that's really what you got. You got Brown, Minot, and Queta, who kind of have their roles. Minot is the spacing slash or the spacing diver who's coming in from the corner, right? He brings the energy on defense. You got Neemias Queta, who is your big man, who is your high pick and roll slipper, and the guy that is going to crash and sit in the dunker spot. You got Brown, who's kind of your dominant ball handler. I put in quotations, pushing the pace, the tone setter. And then what? You got White, who is your isolation player. You got Pritchard, who's your isolation player. And we got Simons, who's your isolation player. So great. Out of your top 6 guys, 3 of them are looking to isolate and looking to score and looking to do the exact same thing. And then off the bench, you got Hauser, who is your spot-up shooter. Garza, who is doing the exact same thing as Queta, just at a lower level.
I'm not really sure what Garza does.
It's like
special. Like there's not really something where I'm like, wow, Garza does. He plays hard. Great. Mfiondu Kabengele played hard. I mean, like that's where we're at with Garza. Sorry, folks.
But
that's it. I hate to bring up Kabengele. I love Kabengele. Vonleh. It's like Vonleh.
I haven't heard Kabengele. He was convinced he was going to be the next Robert Williams for a while. I thought he was going to be the guy. But no, I mean, like that's what it is. And maybe I feel ashamed of myself for being so blind to it. Right? Maybe I was so blinded by just exact how the play styles are going to match and look on the court. And instead I looked at individually how they looked instead of versus how they looked as a team. Because individually it looks pretty nice. Brown, White, Pritchard, Simons, Boucher, Hauser, Minot. I was in on the Minot stock. It's like, okay, it's like you got a team there, right? But now it's like
redundancy and things that don't match, because you have, say, these 4 isolation scorers and you're going, well, who works best off ball out of Jaylen Brown, Pritchard, White, and Simons? Well, naturally you'd say probably Pritchard and White, because they've done it the most out of all of those guys. Simons has owned a lot of responsibility in Portland. Jaylen Brown's owned a lot of responsibility in the Celtics lineup. But then you're saying, well, actually, we want to give the responsibility more so to Pritchard and White and let Simons be an off-ball guy. But Simons isn't an off-ball guy. And then on the defensive end of the floor, he's not giving you the versatility down there. And then Pritchard, oh, you can use him as an off-ball guy, but we want him on ball more so. And while we're using him on ball, he's, again, not giving you that versatility. So you're not getting the defensive versatility out of these guys. And then on the offensive end, they're not clicking. They're not working because the Celtics, the hierarchy doesn't make any sense. It's, oh, well, we want to give White and Pritchard more responsibility, and Simons, we want to play you more so off of those guys, yet really, over time, the 2 guys with the most ball handling experience would be Simons and Brown, and the most experience playing off ball would be Pritchard and White. And maybe that's part of the equation here, is literally sitting down guys like Pritchard and White and going, we understand. And this is not a knock against Pritchard and White. It's just putting them into their correct roles, sitting them down and saying, we want you in an off-ball role. We're going to go to Simons and Brown as our primary ball handlers. Pritchard and White, you're going to play more off of those guys, and then everybody follows suit after that. That is potentially a direction here, but we've talked about it on post games of the past. The Celtics seem to be very keen on Pritchard. He's starting. He's going to be the guy. Simons, he's worth $27 million. He might not even be here past the deadline. We're going to slot him behind Pritchard, and Pritchard is going to actually own more of the responsibility, handling the ball, making the plays on the offensive end of the floor. And that might just be a complete fallacy. But it's also a one that takes into account, again, the future of the team. Pritchard might be here another, who knows how many years, but Pritchard will likely be on the Celtics next year. Simons, you can't say the same because of the status of his deal right now. And those kind of things behind the scenes might be affecting, and it is. I don't want to say might be, it is affecting the team on the court. When this team is thrown together, first of all, and then secondarily, when it's thrown together, the Celtics don't seem to, I don't want to say they care, but the optimization of the team is not fully there because well, this is a step back season, and Simons might not be here next year, and there's really no reason to go out and get a big man when Tatum's not here. And I mean, those are the factors that are messing with the team on the court, and it's it's honestly something where I feel the situation, for as much as we talk about it, when's it gonna change?
If it does, is it? Yeah, exactly. Like it might not. It might not change, and it's an interesting. And that's the cool part about it from a coverage standpoint, where you kind of covered this team now really since 21, the second half of 21-22. You've covered this team kind of in the exact same manner, looking at it through the exact same lens with the exact same goal. This year it's a little bit different for the C's. I mean, they're 3-5. They are sitting at the bottom half of the Eastern Conference standing now through 2 weeks of NBA basketball. And they are going to look to get back at it on Wednesday against the Wizards. And again, then this is the frustrating part, because you could be sitting here looking to go back over 500. You would be what, 5-1 in your last 6 games. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, Boston is in a really, really good spot right now. Instead, you're 3-5 with your second out of 4 games of your homestand against Washington. Listen, Seamus, Washington's 1-6, and it feels sacrilegious to
Washington, Brooklyn, congrats. Just right on. Hey, the Pelicans, congrats. I mean, it just never changes with these teams for some reason. I don't know why.
It does not. Well, you know what? We play the Wizards, between the Wizards, the Pelicans, the Nets, and who else is at the bottom of the conference? And there's one more team in Indiana.
Well, the Pacers and the Celtics, they're like Spider-Man right now, where they're going, hey, it's like, wait a minute. Like, you're here too? It's like, we were both, hey, remember we almost made the conference, or we almost faced in the conference finals 2 years in a row?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny how time. Well, that's 9 wins potentially right there. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we're at their level. But again, they do have a game against Washington coming up on Wednesday. What exactly are you looking for? What kind of needs to happen? Fast forwarding until Wednesday for the Celtics.
Well, this is a team that the Celtics should absolutely not lose to, even considering all the personnel problems. And that's what makes this loss very frustrating, is the Celtics, with all their personnel problems, this is still a Jazz team that, from just an experience standpoint, should be under the Celtics. All the experience on the roster, a lot of young guys out there for the Jazz tonight. The Celtics are going to see a lot of young guys on Wednesday as well for the Wizards. And in those matchups, that's when the Celtics, they have to take advantage of their veteran experience within the NBA. And to me, I understand some of the physicality it's gonna play a factor, but it's also what's being drawn up on court and what's actually being executed. Now, the drawing up in the huddle, but the on court execution of what's drawn up in that huddle. The Wizards are a team in which the Celtics should not find trouble producing against offensively. They just shouldn't. And tonight, I felt as if the Celtics against the Jazz offensively, what they did in the first half was excellent. I mean, they were moving the ball around. I mean, they were playing with energy. They were taking open shots. They were even playing in transition. We saw the fast break points. The Celtics were leading in fast break points and even second chance points despite the rebounding disadvantage. But in that second half, the offense fell off. As the defense was falling off, the offense fell off as well. And we all know the defense and the offense will always affect each other. But defensively, when the Celtics are falling off, offensively, they sped themselves up. There was a lot more hero ball. And the Celtics offensively, what we need to see on Wednesday is what we saw last Wednesday against the Cavs. That game was nearly perfect from the Celtics from start to finish. Now, I'm sure if we look at the lead track and actually go back and look at the film, it was not quite perfect, but 125 points up on the board. Threes were raining down all night, and it was because of the open shots. The Celtics need to find those same open shots against the Wizards and blow them out of the water. Now, defensively, I understand this team is always going to have limitations. That's always going to be something the team's going to have to deal with this entire season because of the personnel issues. But offensively, that's the calling card of the Celtics this year. Defensively, in the past, it's been about locking down, getting stops, turning those stops into opportunities and points in transition, and just continuously hitting home all of the good habits on the offensive end of the floor. The Celtics would always win out on both ends. Now it's not so much about the defensive end of the floor anymore dictating what the Celtics are going to do in the win-loss category. It's about offensively. It's about, can you produce efficiently and effectively and consistently on the offensive end of the floor? And then defensively, we know there are going to be lapses, but through those lapses, can the Celtics match? And of course, can the Celtics come up with one of those quarters of their own? The Celtics are giving up too many of those lopsided quarters this year. The third quarter was another one of those. We've seen the Celtics, if they can come up with a lopsided quarter of their own where they're putting up 40 points, they're putting up 35, and they're holding a team to 20 while doing so because they're simply just getting out there, putting forth their energy, and then converting on the offensive end of the floor, while on the other end, that was the whole Bill Belichick motto over the years, is let the other team make the mistakes, right? If the Celtics are producing offensively, that's going to speed another team up, especially a young team like the Wizards. And then all of a sudden, you're letting the other team make mistakes. And we saw, and this is again where the Celtics are just mediocre within their personnel. Team like the Jazz, the Wizards, the Celtics should come out and defeat. Team like the Rockets on Saturday, well, that was a game where no matter what the Celtics try to do, the Rockets were just more efficient offensively in that game than the Celtics. And those are going to be matchups in which the Celtics lose. Yet all the Celtics matchups against teams like this, right? The Jazz, the Wizards this week, and even the Pelicans last week, these are games the Celtics should win every single time. They obviously don't win them every single time. The probability says they shouldn't win every single time. But really, metaphorically speaking, the Celtics should win these matchups every single time. And it's how they play on the offensive end of the floor first. And that will dictate the rest of the game. But we just need to see more of that efficient offense on Wednesday, the same way we saw it in the first half of this game and even last Wednesday against Cleveland. We know it exists within the Celtics team, just not always there 24/7.
You can't live and die by the three anymore. You can't. You just can't do it. And I want to see a different identity start to try to maybe bleed through. Starting against Washington. Listen, Seamus, this Celtics team is bad enough to where they will have 8 times out of 10 a bad shooting night if they do what they did tonight against Utah from an X's and O's standpoint. If they continue to do that, more times than not, they will come out shooting poorly, and they are not, we talk about personnel, they're not deep enough and not talented enough for personnel to be in the game. So many times last year, I hate to say it, so many times last year, they were shooting themselves in the foot, but they were just really talented. So it's like, we can play really crappy and still win this game because we're really good. You can't do that anymore. That world's over. So Joe Mazzulla, please figure something else out. I don't want to see them shoot 53s again. I just don't. And you're right. It starts with the offensive end of the floor. Washington is absolutely a team that you can go in there and you can beat at home and you can handle them and you can get those starters onto the bench a little bit earlier than you normally do. And you can go in to your Friday night game, right, feeling a little bit better about yourself. This is, quite frankly, I hate to say it, I mean, this is a must-win game. Like, we might be there. Like, you kind of got to win this game. If you lose to Washington at home, you fall to 3-6. I mean, you really, really, really are playing with fire there. So from an offensive standpoint, you need to do that. From a defensive standpoint, Washington does still have some guys that can get it going offensively, right? They are by no means a top offensive team in the league. However, if you mess around, I mean, you know what they can. These are NBA players, right? How many times have we seen a lesser opponent come in against the Boston Celtics and handle business? So again, Sarr has been playing some great basketball. Alex Sarr. So you need to keep him off the glass. Bilal Coulibaly has been doing his things. I mean, they do have some talent. Corey Kispert's been nice off the bench for them, and they do have players that if you're not careful, you can see a Keontae George type of game. Even though Keontae George has been playing some phenomenal basketball to start the season. I mean, I believe he's averaging almost like 22 points per game right now. So another good sign out of Utah from that matter. But again, this is a team that you can absolutely go out and beat. It starts on the defensive end of the floor. And like you're right, Seamus, you need to figure out a way to generate open, good shots on offense. But again, guys, the Celtics will be back in action. That will be Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. tip-off time, the Eastern time. Again, Seamus, you got that. You're a little 6:30 guy, right? And
I don't agree with this statement, but anyway. I am a 6:30 guy.
Want to give your thoughts?
Central Time.
You want to give your thoughts? Open floor?
Well, look, when other teams are picking on Keita at the top of the key, are there moments where he's a good shot deterrent and a shot blocker? 100%. But if you can beat him downhill, if you can pull him up high and beat him downhill, and also too, you notice Keita's base and his footwork just isn't. You look at a guy like Nurkic tonight. Nurkic, now he's not the fastest player in the world, but he's definitely very stout base. He's got nice footwork, as we saw with that little baby hook at the end to really win the game. Keita is just missing those little tiny tidbits within his game, right? The little marginal movements within his game he's missing that separates him from, all right, you're good third, fourth big to from, say, you're a starter in the NBA, in which the Celtics are, of course, trying to make Keita into. But I just wanted to address that down here. Might as well, right before we
close out.
I'm
not real quick. I'll give my take on that. I'll give my comments on that real quick as well before we close out here. I think you're right. When you put in, and we saw this last year, you put Neemias into the pick and roll game, things get dicey. You have Nemi guard down low, maybe off a drive backdoor cut post game. He's actually pretty solid down there, long, athletic, good knack for the ball. But when you start to pull him out, the further out you get, the clunkier those feet get, the faster the guards get, the harder or the easier it is to get past Neemias downhill. I agree. A little bit clunky feet from Neemias. But I do believe that Neemias has, he's right now, I will say, towards the bottom half of my problems list right now. I believe he's actually looked better than how I expected to, this new starting role. I believe he's actually exceeded my expectations early on. So I do believe that is a positive. Neemias has been serviceable down in that position. So I do believe that is actually a positive sign for the Celtics moving forward. So I am happy about that.
Yeah, and let's be clear about this. The guys on the Celtics roster at the big man position, Tillman, he's been fine this year. Keita has been all right at moments. Garza, he's had his... there have been okay moments, but most of it's been, I'm not really sure what he's doing out here. But those other two guys, Keita and Tillman, I could see a future with them as maybe your third or fourth big man, right? Or Keita, maybe your second big man, right? Your second big guy coming off the bench.
I'd feel comfortable with him coming off the bench. Yep.
Second big man, that'd be fine. But as the starting center of the Boston Celtics, and as the starting center of a team trying to compete, which to me, the Celtics, they're trying to compete, but who really knows? Who actually really knows if they're trying to compete? They're just not suited for that position. That's just that's the crux of the issue there. It's that they're not suited for the elevated roles. They're suited for the smaller roles, yet it's the bigger roles they're asked to play right now. And that's what we should always be clear with, because it's always like, we're trashing all these big men, but it's like, we like their games. It's just they're not supposed to be playing this many minutes in this spot against this player at this moment. That's just that's where we're at. That's where we are at with these guys. But anyway,
it is where we're at. But again, the Celtics will have an opportunity to bounce back and maybe pick up a win at the TD Garden this Wednesday. Tip off again 7:30 p.m. Eastern time over there on NBC Sports Boston. Guys, I do just want to say before we close out the show, if you guys aren't already subscribed to us on YouTube, stop what you're doing and do that right now. And when you're doing that, turn on your post notifications, because we are live after every Celtics game. And when you turn that on, you'll get notified right when we go live after a Celtics game, breaking news show, whatever it is, trade deadline special, you name it, you'll get notified when the CTW YouTube channel is live on YouTube, guys. Again, as for tonight, the Boston Celtics, they fall to Utah Jazz at home, 105-103. Boston falls to 3-5 on the young NBA season, while the Utah Jazz, they answer the call in the second end of the back-to-back, and they improve to 3-4. Again, Celtics back in action this Wednesday, November 5th, against the Washington Wizards. After the final buzzer sounds over there at the TD Garden, come right back here to the Celtics Talk Weekly YouTube channel. You'll see me, Seamus, and all the other guys. Got you covered for the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. So again, guys, for me and Seamus Zarlingo, my co-host, until next time, guys, we'll stop.